If you read comics or manga or have any general understanding of the comics and manga industry internationally, you know that manga is absolutely kicking the butt of American comics right now. And for some reason, if you try to bring this up, even to just parse the reasons as to why and learn a little, I think some people tend to be up in arms. But I'm not bringing this up to just trash on American comics or say everyone needs to copy manga. I actually don't think that is the solution, and I don't think that would work at all. I think manga as a medium is very Japanese through and through, and even comic artists like myself who are very influenced by manga can never be the same. However, I do think that there are some things about the manga industry that can remind American comics and, frankly, many other sectors of American entertainment about some things that they seem to have forgotten. So, briefly, humor me, someone who grew up reading way too much manga and went to art school in America and now draws comics while sitting in front of a bad green screen, and hear out my unsolicited opinion. There are a myriad of reasons why manga sells so well, of course. But first of all, inspirational and aspirational stories are a big part of it. So much manga is built around these really emotional stories about hard work, hope, and perseverance. Young people like that, you know. People need to be inspired through stories of great struggle. It's something that American comics and Hollywood used to do in abundance, but now seem slightly allergic to. Not always, but a lot of the time. Manga also sells more because it's easily accessible, has a low price point and digitization, a quicker schedule, and has a very, very competitive merit-based filtering system that is based directly on reader feedback. And honestly, I think that last point is a great, great part of why it's successful, because only the series that are consistently voted popular by fans directly can get a tankobon, which is their trade paperbacks, and then get an anime and get further adaptations and get big franchises. It's all based on merit. These are all reasons for manga's popularity that you've probably heard before, but something that I've really noticed because I grew up in Taiwan with so much manga is the fact that manga has diversity of genre. Do you want to read a manga about salmon swimming up a river? There's a manga for that. Want to read about red and white blood cells? That's a manga. Want to read about cooking, soccer, go, gambling, rollerblading, spirals? There's a manga for all of those. Not only does this make manga a medium instead of a genre, but this way they diversify their audience in a way that actually works. When trying to reach new demographics, the manga industry didn't, for example, take shonen, the highest selling segment of manga which is aimed at boys, and change the common themes of adventure and physical battle in order to appeal to girls more. Because while plenty of shonen have excellent female characters and some even have a decent female readership or female creators, there is an understanding that the primary reader demographic should not be changed. Instead, they have shoujo, a whole different sector of manga aimed at girls, with stories that are more focused on romance or character relationships. When they're trying to appeal to adults, however, they also don't just take shonen and shoujo and make the same IPs darker and grittier to try to appeal to grown men and women. Instead, they make seinen, which is manga for adult men, and josei, manga for adult women. Each series has its own original characters tailored for the specific story. No characters are reused again and again and again. By the way, having these demographic splits and recognizing them doesn't mean that women can't read seinen or adults can't read shonen or shoujo. I, for example, mostly prefer reading seinen. But the point is the manga industry understands the reality of demographic preferences. While we here are almost forbidden from pointing out these preferences because it's not politically correct, I guess, or for some reason a generation of creators in the West have been raised to believe that media can be made for everyone. That doesn't exist. You can't appeal to everyone. The closest you can probably get is Lord of the Rings, and that took a genius to create. In the States, it really does feel like there are only two comic book genres, superheroes and not superheroes. Even the indie publishers that exist don't have huge differences other than Vertigo being the edgy one and First Second leaning more to personal works, I guess. If I'm looking for a specific genre or vibe, there are no clear signs telling me where to go. But in Japan, every manga magazine I pick up will be targeted at a different general demographic. And many magazines specialize in certain genres as well, so it's less of a struggle to find something I like. I'm not saying that there aren't American creators who are making romance and horror and fantasy comics, of course there are. But are unconventional ideas and non superhero comics created by unproven names really given a chance? Do publishers have different branches for superheroes, romance, horror, and fantasy? Do you think a comic about anthropomorphized red blood cells would get distribution in America? That's the metric. I think superhero comics are an American tradition and a genre that is worth preserving, but the fact is it appeals mostly to boys and to men. And I see publishers trying to appeal to other demographics and kind of failing a lot of the time. I think it would help to make room for different genres. American comics used to have that before the Comics Code, but not anymore. Okay, that was a really long second point, but anyways, thirdly, having a clear beginning and end for every series really helps new readers. This was one of the major barriers for me getting into American comics, and why most of the stuff I've read are graphic novels like 300, Sin City, and European comics like Black Sad. If there are 524 issues of one IP and 36 number ones, how am I supposed to know where to start? I am lost. And before anyone says I want to change what other people enjoy, I absolutely do not. I'm an outsider to American Cape Comics and nobody has to accommodate me. However, I think it's relevant for me to point out why I, as a woman who does like to read about adventure and action, can get into superhero manga, but not American superhero comics. Maybe in a world where I only had access to American comics, I would just dig through the mass of back issues and find the runs that I like. But manga exists now to compete for my attention, and it's keeping my attention. Lastly, the synergy. The pure synergy between anime and manga helps so much. Oh no, I'm doing the scolding hands. And the key here is that the anime almost always completely faithfully adapts the manga. Not kinda roughly approximates the source material, not the I'm adapting something, but I want to leave my mark on the IP, so I'm gonna make a bunch of changes thing that people do here when they make adaptations. No, most anime mimic the art style of their respective manga and are frequently shot for shot from the pages. If something is successful, respect it. If someone made a story that the fans like, then respect the creator's intentions and respect the core audience. And this synergy and faithfulness to source material leads to both better adaptations and more people being brought into reading the manga because they watch the anime. I have seen a faithful Western animated adaptation in the case of Invincible, but that's literally the only example I can think of. I think that sometimes people who are making adaptation from comics are almost embarrassed of the source material and want to obfuscate the fact that they're using comic books. And also, I'm really tired of seeing comics that are drawn to be Netflix adaptations. So, in conclusion, manga isn't successful just because of big eyes or big panels or black and white art or screen tones or whatever. That's all superficial. It's the inspirational, character driven stories, the diversity of genre, and the synergy with animated adaptations that really drives its popularity. And also, like I said, only the best series rise to the top. It doesn't matter how much you kiss ass with your editors, it doesn't matter what connections you have. If you're not making sales and the fans don't say they like your series on the surveys, your series is getting axed. At the end of the day, nothing can replace merit. I wish I didn't regularly see so many indie comics in America struggling to survive, all because there isn't really a merit-based apparatus for newer creators with weird ideas to have a chance. Though maybe that struggle breeds for a type of ultra competence as well. I don't know. Survival of the fittest. All in all, I don't have all the answers. I'm just a dork on the internet who's trying to draw my own fantasy comic and get it out there. I don't think American comics need to copy manga, and I don't even think that's possible. I just wish that our comics were as globally successful as manga or as valued as bande dessinée. And to achieve that, we have to find our own way, but it doesn't hurt to take notes. I don't have the power to change anything, but I still wanted to put this out there in the one in a billion chance that it reaches the right ears. And honestly, this subject is something I think about so much. It's been killing me. I've been wanting to talk about it for literally over a year, so I've tried to keep it short and truncated down. So, hope you enjoyed that. If you may perhaps be interested in my long-form dark fantasy comic, Fiendish is the story of a young man who is seeking the truth behind his family's demonic murder, blending elements of mystery and high fantasy. You can find out more at fiendishcomic.com, or you can start reading digitally right now on Global Comics. All those links will be in the description. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. I stream and talk about the creative process. I also record and share drawing videos. I have a ton of shorts full of art tips and little snapshots as I work on Fiendish. Thanks for watching. Until next time. Bye!